Hey Jeff, if we're not here for 4 hours, can I talk to you afterwards real quick? Okay. Was that? Are you planning? You know what? After the last several meetings, I don't anticipate anything anymore.
Just hope.
Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Football draft. They have that scheduled later tonight, so we go long. My son will draft more than he knows way more about it than I do. So we got to get longer.
I have one good draft and one bad draft. So.
We'll take you on for coffee. If you were yeah.
Well, so I say that I can see that, but I don't see it. How far is that? We're touching fire 45 just rescue, but our rigs and everything. Yeah, that's the shit. Now, on seriously, you have a volunteer firefighter who has no funds really in a city, and we build them here in Lake.
Yes. There's none of them not funded anymore because of the organization, but all of the ALS tiers. We have, depending upon how it goes, if we transport every vehicle, the station's loaded and there's good reason not to move them. If we're on the interstate, we aren't going to move a patient out in high traffic. We're jumping everything with our gear. We can charge up to $300. Yes, to put them in our gear, we charge full, bill insurance company for everything that we do. And it works well for us, but it's tough. It's tough. We're going. We're not. There's that. Going. We're not helping them. But it's how we get them back. Yes. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because those communities deserve so much.
How does a town the size of Kearney operate?
It's small, right?
So it's AMR, the hospital. They have volunteers.
Well, good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll begin with roll call.
Here, present.
Backus, Stokes.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Lucas.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Harmon.
Here.
Reaper.
Here.
Ostendorf.
Here. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Before we head on into item number 2, I believe Jim would like to say a few words before we get started.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would just like to say a couple of things. I'd like to extend a special thanks to the people we have sitting here, our department heads, for all the work that they've done working with us this year on our budget. You know, as is usually the case, we were not able to meet all the needs of the various departments, but we all have worked together to come up with a budget that I think will work for the city here this next year. We're also very cognizant of the fact that whenever we put these budgets together, we think about those who we are asking to pay their taxes, their rates, their fees to us, and these other various things. We always take that into consideration in what we ask for from our people. And I would remind everybody that we have not changed the mill levy since the 2016-2017 budget. It's always been the same. And looking at some of the articles in the newspaper, I would say that again, the city is probably taking one of the smallest increases in property tax asking of the various tax asking entities here within the community. I'd also like to say a special thanks to Dawn. Her and I work very closely during this time, and she's the one who puts all the material together that we use during this budget process. And she does an excellent job for us on that. So again, Dawn, thank you very much. We're now at a point where we need to approve the appropriations for the coming year. And one of the things that we always have to ask at this meeting is that the council will suspend the rules. I know that sometimes it's hard to do, but to save us the time that will be needed to be able to submit the budget to the state and to put it in place by the 1st of October, we do need to ask that the council suspend the rules. And again, that is pretty much the same thing that we've asked every year of the council. We're also at a point where the council can deliberate on the approval of the budget for the next year and make any comments that they'd like to make on the budget. I would only ask that if we're going to do that, that we take into consideration the overall effect that may have on the budget by making any kind of recommendations. If we make recommendations that show that change the bottom line, then what we're forced to do is to republish and come back and go through at least a portion of the same process that we've already been through with this. So again, you know, if you have an idea, if you want to make a change, you know, let's visit about it and get it out, because tonight is the council's opportunity to visit amongst themselves on where they want to go with this budget. The other thing I would say is that we had the public hearing the other night. The mayor gave everybody an opportunity to get up and speak their piece. So the council hopefully has had an opportunity to think about that a little bit. And we appreciate the public being here and having the input that they have. And again, in closing then, I would just like to say that we always take into consideration the constituents. And that's why we haven't raised the mill levy. For every dollar in value, we're still only asking you to pay the same amount of tax dollars on those dollars. And again, we're coming in with a very slight increase in the overall budget. But a lot of that is thanks to these people that you're seeing out here and us working together as a family to be able to put this budget together and respect the constituents of our community. So with that, Mayor, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jim. I would also like to just echo what Jim just stated to the department heads. They're amazing people, and thank you very, very much. I know you put in a lot of hours, and I'm sure there was probably some sleepless nights. So I truly do appreciate everything that you did, especially Dawn. I know she put in a great deal of hours as well, and Jim, I know he definitely had some sleepless nights as well. So, and thank each and every one of you, and so we'll just go ahead and move forward here. So we'll go on to item number 2, which is action on ordinance number 4014 to adopt the budget statement and appropriate city money for the fiscal year 2019 and 2020.
I move that we suspend.
An ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of North Platte, Lake County, Nebraska, to adopt the budget statement to be termed the annual appropriation bill, to appropriate some for necessary expenses and liabilities, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
I move that we suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings on ordinance number 4014.
Just to clarify, this is just the suspension of the rules, correct?
No, answer.
I guess I have a question about.
Just a moment, Ed. You need to, or I'm sorry, Lawrence. Oh, no, you haven't voted. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Regarding the suspension, I take it that the reason we're being asked to suspend the rules is just because of time.
Yes, that's correct.
Is there any reason why we can't begin this process earlier so we have an opportunity to deliberate a little more on this process and thereby maybe make some cogent recommendations to consider as council?
We could do that, Ed. One of the problems we have though is that the county is not required to certify the valuations to us until August 20th. We could move it up, but we would be basing it on longer projections, if you will, from the departments on what they're thinking they're going to end up with. And then again, the county assessor is not required to give us the certified valuations until almost the end of the process we're already in. So, you know, and I guess really that would be up to the mayor to make a decision. If you wanted to start the process earlier, we could.
I guess from my perspective, I think that would be very beneficial. I'm kind of a newbie here, I guess. There's a lot of this stuff that I really don't understand. I'm beginning to understand it better. And I think at least from my perspective, to have a little more time, even though knowing full well there may be some modifications in the final budget, to have a little more time to think about it, to discuss it with other people, and maybe come up with some ideas or recommendations or thoughts on how we can make the budget a little, streamline the budget maybe a little bit, maybe move some monies here or there to accommodate some of the more pressing needs of the community. So I guess I throw that out as a request for next year, that we certainly take that into consideration, that maybe instead of waiting to review the budget until we have to suspend the rules, that we have a little more time to be able to review this, even with the understanding that it may have to be adjusted.
Thank you. And that motion passes. Item number 3, action on
We got to
adoption.
vote on 2.
Oh, sorry. I got excited.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 4014 to this budget statement and to appropriate city monies for fiscal year 2019-2020.
There's an item I'd like to have a little discussion on, please, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And I think this is mostly an accounting item. If you reference the golf course fund accounting, we have there's a contingency item outlined. 48. And there's a contingency item in the golf golf course fund of $197,165, which inflates the expenditure budget for the golf course, which then I think appears, for somebody who hasn't spent a lot of time looking at it or understanding it, that our expenditure budget is increased at the golf course. I think from an operating standpoint, that's not the case, but that provides an optic that that's what's occurring. And so what I'd like to look at, and I think this could be done without a net alteration in the overall budget that would create a process issue, is to determine, and I'll defer to Jim to maybe walk through how we can do this, but if we could get that contingency item pulled out of the golf course funded expenditure and over to the general fund contingency and keep that out of I think we would have a budget that would be less likely to be misinterpreted by outside readers.
Yeah,
comment on that, Jim?
I agree with that. Again, that has to do with transfer and the overreach and the potential shortfall this year. But the way to do that, in my opinion, would be that we pull $200,000 just so we can keep it in round numbers. And if you would amend the budget ordinance to say that you want $200,000 out of the contingency on the golf course fund to be moved to the contingency on the general fund. And I think that would take care of that issue. And I agree with you, that would be a better reflection of what the actual expenses are out there.
Okay. And to make sure I understand that right, that transfer, we're kind of mopping up the prior year's operating shortfalls that needed to be transferred at some point. But this also then covers us for what we expect from an operating shortfall for the next cycle, right?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, I guess I would just, one more question. Does that affect then the technical transfer on the 3.25? Does that alter anything like that, or is it just the allocation of that?
It's just the allocation of that
Okay.
transfer.
Okay. Well, I hope I'm going to do this right, but I'd just like to make a motion to amend the budget with a $200,000 alteration of the contingency in the golf course expenditures to the general fund.
Second.
And we'll just be voting on the amendment then, to clarify. Okay.
And that motion passes.
And now the main motion is on the floor now, so as of that.
I guess I don't want to make a motion, but I would like to make a comment. When I think about government, especially city government, I think there's probably 3, maybe 4 basic things that government needs to do. One is police protection, one is fire protection, one is streets and highways, and then finally utilities, which would include water and sewer. When I look at our expenditures, let me look at the notes here that I made. We've increased our police costs, we've increased our fire costs, we've increased our public service costs, but to a very minor extent. And if I'm understanding correctly, public services would include the streets. Recreation went up and public transit went up a lot, quite frankly. And then the library went up. When I think about the basic duties of government, I really don't see that recreation, public transit, or the library fall into the basic duties of government. I don't understand that that is part of a basic governmental function. So I'm a bit confused when think everyone in this room, certainly my constituents, would agree that our streets are in bad need of repair in our community. Even to the point that I've been told that some streets are getting to the point where it's no longer a repair issue, it's a replacement issue. And I'm confused, I guess, why, if the basic functions of government that I outlined are in fact the basic government functions, why we aren't looking to reduce some of these other non-essential government functions to correct the deficiency in our street department by moving some of those other funds into the public service department. That's a question that I throw out there, and I'm not going to make an amendment or try to change the budget. But I think this is, I think maybe, at least from my perspective, this is not what I understand the purview of government to be, one of the government functions to be. And I guess thinking maybe a little bit ahead, I would like to see us as a council, with certainly the support of the mayor and Mr. Hawks, put together some kind of a committee whereby we could start looking at some of these budget items and maybe offer some suggestions with the support of the department heads on how we can start shrinking some budgets, at the same time increasing the basic function of government budget. And that would be my suggestion for the upcoming year. One of the comments, golf course is still number one, but streets certainly come in as a number two. And when I look at our expenditures, it doesn't make sense to me why the repair of the streets seems to be getting short shrift. So I just wanted to make that comment, throw it out, and maybe consider as a council that we put together some type of a committee to review some of these budget items for next year.
Thank you. Ed, we're friends. I respectfully disagree with you. Another thing the government has to do is the welfare of the people. And the reason we have transportation in this town is because they can't afford to go to doctor's appointments. They can't afford to have a car. To me, that is a vital function to make a community. There are poor people in this town. And I don't think that this dollars and cents issues is people issues. And I just have to disagree with you. Poor kids need recreation. People need transportation. And that is a vital function of government in this country. Historically, it's been that way. We used to have a bus service in North Platte when I was a kid. Here in North, those yellow buses, anybody remember that? It's part of the government function. But we're friends, and I'm not arguing with you, and I think you're right. We have to look at IRE. We have to look at the budget. But I disagree that we're just confined to those areas. The welfare of the people is just as important as those other things. And that's just my opinion on this.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I agree fundamentally with what Mr. Reeker said. I can also appreciate that I think there are other things, except aside from the essential functions that Mr. Reeker has identified, that are worth doing. So I guess I kind of agree with both of you to a certain extent. Makes perfect sense to me. So anyway, that's my comment.
If we're just discussing this, if you take away the library, you take away Cody Park, you take away the ball field, you take away most of the recreation, then who supplies that for a city? Because as far as I'm concerned, that's part of a city function. That's why we are a city, because we can supply those things for the people that live here. So then, who takes care of that if it isn't the city?
I don't think I meant to imply, Glenn, that these services will be eliminated. But I think that we need to take a hard look at how we're spending our money to make sure that we're spending it on the functions of government. and to Mr. Nisley's concern, and we certainly are friends, and I respect that very much. I think we've gotten ourselves in a pickle, quite frankly. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm a Christian. I want to live my life as a Christian. I strive to live my life as a Christian. I don't do a very good job most days. But I think part of my duty as a Christian is to help my fellow man. So if my neighbor needs a ride to the doctor, it's my job to help that neighbor get to the doctor. Sometimes it's a huge inconvenience. Sometimes I'm not able to do it. But I don't know that it's entirely proper for me to put my responsibility, what I view as my responsibility, on somebody else's shoulders. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Just got a couple comments on this and a short prepared statement, but it won't take too long. I think our city is in a difficult position, and the street budget really becomes the place where it gets most affected as you go down the line, because we're not naturally growing, and we can discuss, like we did the other night. We had great discussions on future development, and Gary and the chamber, their crew are working. We've got a lot of great efforts out for growth, but it's difficult when you're in our size of community location. In today's world, growth is just difficult. We could grow our way out of this problem, but it's hard. We got to stay focused on that. To me, that's objective number one. But this golf course issue, I've become passionate about. I think I've told a number of people, I'm not even really passionate about what we do as a community about it, keeping it or not keeping it. I'm passionate about us making a decision and dealing with this. This can has been kicked down the road so many times, it's ridiculous. Bill and the staff out at Iron Eagle are doing a great job. I have no criticisms with the job that our city employees are doing with the golf course. I have a criticism about the way that this council is continually ignoring the public sentiment on it. And the negativity and the distrust of city government that's occurring as a result of that is becoming costly. And I can make an argument that that's what's costing us the money that needs to go into the roads fund. Last year, there was a sales tax initiative that was presented that would have significantly funded our infrastructure needs. And the neat part of that sales tax would have been that all of us who live here would have paid it, but the citizens in the county would have also paid it to come to North Platte, and all the travelers on I-80 who stopped here would have paid it. So it was a revenue source that would have grown, that wouldn't have just been the citizens of North Platte, but the people using North Platte. And so to me, we've got to get focused on getting this negativity issue solved so we can then start to create revenue sources and gain citizen support on it. So with that, I'm just going to read a quick prepared statement and I'll be done. Mayor Livingston, many citizens of North Platte desire to have an election so our voters can make a determination on the city's future commitment to fund and operate Iron Eagle Golf Course. This council's historic resistance to face this ongoing public sentiment has resulted in significant negativity and distrust of city government in our community. I've made numerous requests to bring this matter before the city council to consider whether a special election should be held. I've also expended a significant amount of time and research in developing a proposed ballot question. You opted to ignore my request for this matter to come before this council. I'm very appreciative of the efforts of the city department managers have made to complete this budget with no increases in tax rates. However, I cannot in good faith to the citizens in my ward vote in favor of the proposed budget that continues to fund Iron Eagle without this council having proper venue to consider whether this community should hold a special election on this matter or not. If you will promise to put this matter on the city council agenda within the next 2 months, I will vote in favor of the proposed budget. If you will not agree to add this item to the council agenda in the next 2 months, I will vote against this proposed budget. Thank you. Here's this for the record now.
Jim?
Very well put, and I would just, everything we just said.
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
I'd like to add a little bit. I think a special election should take place, and I agree totally with that. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't accept responsibility to do just that through the mayor putting this on our agenda. But to me, that would be Plan B. Because I think Plan A is for us to take our responsibility in stewardship and take care of this problem right here. Now, I think there's a future for golf out there. But I would see it perhaps not the kind of golf we're used to, or perhaps 9 holes instead of 18, golf on the high ground and let the frogs have the low ground, would be my thought. But I think that what we need to do in order to make that happen, and I think it would please the developer and a lot of our citizens, if we would make that happen, and I think it could happen. There could still be some golf going on out there, but I think the first thing that has to happen as a precondition of that is that I think we need to stop tax funding of Iron Eagle. And we could do that right here if we chose to. I think we're going to see a petition, whether the mayor puts it on the agenda or not. That would be my take on it. But I think it's our responsibility, and I would like to see us handle it right here at this table and make a decision that takes into consideration our taxpayers, because I think they've been pushed to the rear of this. And an old woman the other night said exactly that. She said, "We come before you all the time and make our thoughts known, and time after time we just feel like we're being ignored." And she didn't say stonewall, but that would be what I would call it. And I think she hit the nail right on the head. So personally, I think that we have the ability to I thought we'd probably be talking about golf later in this discussion, but now that we start talking about it, I figure I may as well make my comment too. So I would just like to see us stop this nonsense, and I think the developer would be tickled if we did, so that we could make efforts toward getting some private ownership in there to find a viable solution, so we can still have some golf and we can be responsive to our citizens at the same time. Thank you.
All right, so I guess it's my time to chime in. I think everybody else has chimed in now. Oh no, Lawrence is still out. Got his time. So, no, Iron Eagle bothers me a lot, just as the red ink side of it. And I'm not sure that abandonment or closing is actually going to save the city any money, just doing rough estimates and myself. But I would like to see first, I guess, what those would be. To me, a mowing crew to go out there and handle that, keep it presentable for our developer, as he requested that would happen, would be just as expensive as keeping Iron Eagle open. But I guess I'd be interested to see if we can put together, I just think a crew and everything like that would, it would be interesting, especially if, Ty wants to keep going on the election side here. We need to make sure we have all the information. Another thing is, I think it would behoove us to look to see if there's a partner out there that we can send an RFP to lease it out to long-term, or look at the possibility of sales and see what else is out there. I think that the golf course could be successful. And I say that hesitantly. The only reasons why is in respect to the Telegraph's article about rivers. I believe Colorado is doing their due diligence to control the South Platte River a lot more in the future. So I think the flooding opportunities will be less, but I believe the political toxicity that exists surrounding Iron Eagle will never, it is going to inhibit that location until the city is not the main care handler for it. So I think if there's a group of 5 or 6 people that want to come together and, they're like, we really like golf and this is something we'd like to do. Let's put together a proposal. We hear that there's one available in North Platte, or that, maybe there's another existing golf course in the area. But, I think if we did this together and stuff like that, we might be able to make it work. Or I think it would be smart to look at least to see what's out there. And if there's no viable person or entity to work with, then we can go from there. But that's something I would really like I guess, see is if that is possible. If there is a partner out there that would be willing to look at a long-term lease or maybe a sale, I don't know if we can even go down that road, but something that would allow us to take it out of the political arena and allow, I guess, the investment, I'll call it an investment, that the people of North Platte have put in there, a very significant investment in a golf course, but to allow it to live, to allow the golfers to have their time, but it to be taken out of the political arena and essentially not our problem, and to allow us to succeed. I mean, I ran numbers on what golf courses are costing, and that, what you were telling me, that the objective originally of it was to have a cheap, affordable golfing. I think it's a mixed bag on that front. It's right there with the lake in terms of cost. I mean, they're within $25 of each other for a year membership, so that's pretty good. I mean, it's way cheaper. Both are way cheaper than River's Edge. When I called out there, I happened to call out to Kearney. They were charging $645 a year, which is cheaper than Iron Eagle, but not by much. $450 and $850 66. I called Scotts Bluff, $480, $562 and 25 cents. I called Columbus though, and this is one that really surprised me. It was Columbus and Norfolk. You were talking in the $900 to $1,200 range to play golf for a year and a membership. So I call it a mixed bag in terms of trying to keep affordable. If that was our goal, was to keep it affordable, I think we already have that option here available in town at this present point with the lake. And not to mention Indian Meadows, but that's only 9 holes, so I'm kind of excluding that because it's just different. People want to play 18, play 18, they don't play 9. If people want to play 9, play 9. But, further east you go, it seems to be more expensive. Further west you go, it seems to be cheaper to play golf. And, and I looked at Gothenburg, that Wild Horse, and it was $527.50 to play golf out there for a year. So in terms of being cheaper, I don't know, I think it's a mixed bag in terms of our ability to keep it cheaper, but I think it would be the best responsibility to the people to look to see what all options we have out there, and that includes seeing if there's a group or an entity that would mind getting into the golf game and could take it off of our hands.
Just to add to what you had to say there, Andrew, if I may say, part of this is the future too, and what concerns me, if we keep the golf course, or we get somebody to buy the golf course, I don't know if we could feasibly do that, but Chase got his hands on it. But my point is, Mr. Skinner's only got, Indian Meadows is only going to be around for another 2. I hate to even say that because I really respect that man. But that's not going to be open much longer. So where are those golfers going to go? All right? Which is only going to help the other 3 courses, or one or the other, whatever it might be. My concern is if for some reason River's Edge can't make it, and they shut their doors, Mr. Skinner's can't do it no more. So his daughter sells it to a developer per se. Well, now we're down to, and we decided to hang up the golf course business. We're down to 1 golf course. That concerns me down the road. And the other thing is the individuals that play at Iron Eagle, I don't know where they came from, but I don't foresee them, like you said, that they won't go to River's Edge and play if we close our cars down. So it's not going to help them out financially. The lake, from what I understand, and Ty, I don't know if you play out there or not. Do you play golf?
Yep.
Okay.
I love to play golf.
From what I hear from individuals, they're pretty much full. They don't want any more golf. Am I incorrect?
Yeah, I'm not on the board out there, but what I hear from board members is that financially things are difficult out there because I think they feel like they're limited on what they can charge because of the municipal competition, and that I think they struggle to get by, but they get by, and they have a lot of play. But yes, it is known to be busier, and I think there are people that choose not to play at the lake because of how busy that course is. And I would tell you guys, this is why I keep feeling like we need to get this to the voters. The voters can have the same information we have about this golf course. they might want to keep it, and then we know what to do, because Jim's right. Leasing this golf course or selling the golf course to others could have bad consequences. That is not a forever answer, because I mean, golf course managers are very volatile by nature in today's world because the golf business is tough. And so the reason I keep coming back, and the reason you guys are all tired of me touting special election, is because I think our voters, with all information, every bit of information I or you have, should make this ultimate longer term decision for us, because they both have consequences, good and bad. They both have pros and cons. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like this council keeps thinking that, well, we just have the greater good of the community in our interest, and we just know more about it than everybody else does. So gosh darn it, we should just deal with this. I think it should go to the voters with the same information and let this community make this decision and rebuild the trust in this government. Our mayor and Mr. Hawks and the staff in this city get way more criticism than they deserve, in my opinion. And I think a lot of that is on this council for not addressing Iron Eagle head on over the years. I really believe that.
Here's another concern of mine, that if we open up this door and allow for a special election, there's a citizen group of people that are concerned about Iron Eagle, what's next? Are we gonna have another concerned citizen group that wants to get rid of the library, and then we've opened the door for special elections, so we're gonna allow them to then close the library down? Are we gonna, the recreational department, they're losing $800,000 a year. Are we gonna have a special group of people come in here and go, well, you allowed it for Iron Eagle and they voted it down? I'm just saying, would that happen? I don't know, but I think we'd be opening up Pandora's box.
If I could just take this a little bit of a different direction, talking to some of the golfers, and I'm not a golfer, one of the things that really gets them out there is that they have green fees and they have an annual fee, and then we're offering a discount to pay that annual fee early in the year, which I understand, but that's six in the craw of the other people. I think that we need to look at, quite frankly, even if we said we're going to shut down Iron Eagle, this is going to be a couple of year process anyway. I'm just telling you to do it prudently. I would say that what I'd like to see some concrete action, and I've been advocating this, is number one, we're going to start no discount on your green fees, guys. I mean, on your annual fees. If you want to golf Iron Eagle, God bless you, we want you, but there's political issues with that. The second thing I think that Andrew talked about is green fees. I don't think we're way out of line, but I don't think we ought to be undercutting people. I think that gets to them too. I mean, they have to, they're paying real estate taxes, and Iron Eagle is not. And, we have to make sure our green fees aren't undercutting those other people. Because it is government subsidized. And the other thing that I talked about is we have the issue with the family, the Chase family. And I think we got to work to get a quick claim deed on that. We're not going to get any resolution on that. In the next year, I would reconsider my position on Iron Eagle. I'll be honest with you. I'm tired of hearing that, well, the Chases will get it back or whatever. I want a resolution of that. I'm telling you right now, if we don't get a resolution here or on the road to doing that, I'm going to reconsider my position on Iron Eagle. The last thing I'm going to say is, I've been around golfers my whole life. I was in the legal profession. Golfers are interesting guys, and there's a social issue. If you close down Iron Eagle, they're not going to go out to River's Edge. They may not go out to Iron, they may go to Sutherland or someplace else. I don't think that closing down Iron Eagle solves the basic problem with golfing that they have right now as an industry. I'm just being honest with you. I honestly felt that we could shut this thing down, but I don't think that really is the answer. I think what we need to do, we have a responsibility. The city of North Platte, rightly or wrongly, has invested a heck of a lot of money in this thing. And I don't want to go out and do it cheap because that affects the taxpayers. And I think we have a responsibility on that issue. And that's all I'm going to say about it, guys. But we're not ignoring this issue. But I think we need to start taking some concrete action, let the public know that we're dealing with this issue. And if 3 years down the line it means closing Iron Eagle, then that's what we need to do. But that's why I'm a little bit opposed to a vote on this issue now. Give us a chance to work on You know, I'm serious about that. We're not even 1 year out paying all the debt off.
Yes.
You know, give us a chance. I mean, you hope you have some respect for us. Let's work it out. You know, that's all I'm trying to say. I don't make any glowing promises, but I think this issue of putting the vote on it, it's an aggravation. You know, and every council member here, what's the one thing you're sick and tired of hearing about? Iron Eagle. You know, and I invite you to complain. Rich, I'm not complaining about you. I mean, anybody can write to complain to us, but we've heard a lot about this. And I'm not, this isn't a deal because I love Iron Eagle and I want to keep it around forever. That's not the deal. I want to work out a solution that's best for the city of North Platte, and I'll keep my big mouth shut.
Well, we've gone and stripped this thing for a year and a half now, or for a little over a year. And I don't see where one bit of difference.
Well, I have a bit to say. Do I get a turn here? Well, in fact, I got a lot to say right at the moment. First of all, I did not ignore you, and you know that. That was not ignored. You know that this discussion has been going on for quite some time. I spoke to you and 3 others at a meeting. You knew what was going on, and you were informed why we're not bringing it forward. So don't say I ignored you. No, that did not happen. You have to forget there's other council members here. It's just not you. I talked to each and every one of them to determine if they wanted to go that route. And you knew that you did not have the votes to get it in here to that. So I just want to say that. Now I want to talk about Iron Eagle a little bit. I don't think you need to give me a history lesson on the Iron Eagle. We all know it's been around about 25 years. And I don't think there's been a year since that happened that someone on this council hadn't complained about Iron Eagle. So there's been a split for 25 years, got 50, I don't even know what it is, 50-50 probably. Now, the other night, I just want to share, and then I'll keep quiet here for a little bit, but the other night, Tuesday, we had a work session. And this group came in, and I'm thankful that they came in and let you know what's going on out there in that vicinity. I've been in talks, not to me personally, but I know Jim has been in talks for probably a year, been a year. I lose track of time, quite honestly. And we've had to keep that quiet because it depended on that in order for these groups to come forward to do what they wanted to get accomplished out in this particular area. And they came forward the other night and explained to each one of you what that process was going to be. And it's a little tough for me to ignore that because we have an opportunity here in North Platte. Not only the 10 million that we voted on the other night, we're probably up in the $40 million range. And the talks that we had in the past year was dependent upon the golf course being there. Now, you can all argue about that. You don't need the golf course, but I'm listening to the people that know about their business. They're successful in what they have done. And if they tell me that this opportunity is to have that golf course there and move forward with what they wanted to do, I'm going to listen to them. And I have been listening to them for 8 months, and I got to tell you, we've been talking to them for that probably amount of time to come to this council and talk to y'all so you get off of me. But I've had to be quiet about it. But I did explain that to a couple of you, or probably more than that this process was being taken into consideration, and I needed them just to give me a chance. Now, during those conversations, not only does Chief talk to them many times, we also talk to some individuals that are interested in taking over the golf course. Now, unfortunately, when you keep talking about the golf course, how can you be successful in enticing somebody to come here and take that over if you continually slam the golf course? They know what's going on. We get calls 10 minutes after these meetings to say, what in the world are y'all doing? It's a little hard to explain that when I know that we may have an opportunity to have a $40 million project come to North Platte, and believe me, we need that. We truly do need that. So, and also that meeting that night, not just Chief, but there's an individual from, well, y'all know who it was. We had a part 2 of that particular meeting. I'm still a little bit disturbed about that. got an individual here that is promoting, what's that golf course out here? River's Edge. They have a private roadway that goes through there, and he's asking for us to pay for, what, $250,000 to fix a road that's on private property. And what I heard that night, I want them, first of all, let me tell you this, I want them to be successful. I want everybody in business here in town to be successful. And I've said that all along. And until this council, or who's ever sitting here, can understand that we need to support all the businesses here in town. We need to support everything that we got going in North Platte, not only our administration here, our different departments. If we can't support what we have here, how in the world can we entice somebody to come to North Platte if they see what we're doing right here? It's tough, I'm telling you. And I've been talking to these people for 8 months, or longer, probably longer. So this gentleman gets up here, and I don't have a problem with that. I want him to be successful, in that group to be successful. The thing that bothered me the most is that, well, it didn't bother me, this council, this group, I don't know how many of you spoke, and you were trying to find solutions to help this person, which, you know, you should do. Why are we not doing with it, finding solutions for what we have that we need to be taken care of? If we all get together and figure out a solution to what we already have, instead of bickering about it every year at budget time, that Iron Eagle would be successful. I know that. But how in the world do you be successful if you're being told you're going to close up the next year or trying to close the next year? It makes it pretty tough. And in all honesty, that group is doing a really good job out there. They're working their hind ends off to make that a good golf, well, it is a good golf course. So they work really hard at doing that. I don't know where I'm going with all that, but I wanted to share that. In the end of that meeting where Mr. Richards was here and requesting information or even help to take care of that private, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think we should be doing it. I never thought we should start in taking care of private property, and I think you all said that. I think most of you agreed with that. The problem I had with the end of that conversation was he started slamming Iron Eagle. And these people sitting in here laughing about it. That bothered me. What we should be doing is trying to find a solution to make Iron Eagle a viable place in a workable area. That's what we do. How can we help this guy find a solution to what his problem is, and he won't do it for our own? So I needed to say that. Now, we're still in negotiations with an individual to take over the golf course. I hope that he does. That would solve a lot of the problems that we're talking here tonight. But it's pretty darn hard to talk him into taking this golf course if we're going to sit around here and tell you what a bad place it is. Well, he didn't quite say that. But so the discussions has been hurting those discussions in the background. And unfortunately, I was never been able to say anything about it until Chief came forward and let me know what was going on. So anyway, that's my spiel on this. We just need to work together, find solutions to make these things work, and we'll all be better off for it. This city will be better off for it. Now, I'm not one that wants to close golf courses at this point in time from what the discussions I've had over the past year. And I think it's important that we make sure, or at least, I know some of you voted against it, beyond my disbelief. Are you voting against the golf course, or were you voting against Chief Industries, not thinking that they're going to be able to do what they say they are? They're a well-qualified group of people that have done well across the state of Nebraska. They're willing to take a risk and come to North Platte, Nebraska and spend their money with a $10 million project and maybe 20 to 30 more million dollars on this other area. I, for one, would like to see that happen. We need it here in North Platte, and if they get that done, I can guarantee you that there'll be more businesses coming into that area. It's just going to happen. They'll just follow them right in. It's going on in Grand Island. He's doing it in Lincoln and wherever else in the state of Nebraska. They're really good people. So I don't want to mess that up, and I certainly don't want to mess it up because of the golf course. Anyway, all right, I'm done.
Well put. Well put.
Find a solution. And I'm certainly not ignoring anybody. Never have, never will. And I've talked to everyone. I can't even tell you how many people I've talked to. until I'm blue in the face. But I will take every phone call that I ever get. And if I'm not home when they make a phone call, I call them back. I just got one last night. A very nice gentleman. I don't get the phone calls that you get, Ty. I don't get the ones that I've talked to tell me that they hope that they see the golf course continue. I got stopped in Lincoln, in a shoe store in Lincoln, Nebraska, to tell me that they hope that the golf course continues. Are you kidding me? They're excited for it. They wish me all the luck in the world. And I can't tell people, I couldn't tell people at that time that chief was what their positions were. I couldn't do it. I would love to have been able to say that to somebody, but I've been told to keep quiet because everybody that's been, I'm not a businessman, but I know that if you start spitting that stuff out, that really creates some problems for the purchasing prices. Because you and I know that if somebody finds out what you're doing, the price of everything out there is going to go up. Believe me, it will go up. Whoever owns the property they're looking at. I might have said too much now. So I think I'll stop for the moment. So anyway, we still have a motion, and everybody else wants to speak, by all means, please do.
I'd like to make a comment, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the work that you have done. I can't imagine.
Wonder that.
Well, I do. I honestly
Thank
do. I hold no animus towards anybody.
Nor do I.
And I appreciate that comment. I, for one, am glad that Chief is considering coming to North Platte. They are a reputable company. They are a very reputable company, and they have a very good track record. And I guess I look at Chief maybe as being a resolution to our problem with the golf course. Because I think that if we play our cards right, we might be able to roll this whole package all into one and have a resolution to the golf course problem. They'll have properties out there that they can develop and sell and make money on and still be able to provide the amenities of golf at the same time. As far as me voting against the contribution, it had nothing to do with the integrity of TIF or the integrity of Chief. It had nothing to do with the integrity, with your integrity or anyone else's integrity. I would hope that most of you know that I have a basic philosophical disagreement with government getting involved in subsidizing public or private enterprise. I absolutely do not believe that is within the purview of government. It concerns me that we continue to move down a socialistic model where government becomes more and more important in our lives. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's